Hey, everybody. It's good to see everybody out there today. DJ, it's even good to see your ugly mug. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, David. How you doing, bud?
Doing good. We've went a little bit between episodes, busy softball and baseball schedules. And so we're happy to get back going again tonight. Tonight, we're going to cover a really interesting team, the Toronto Blue Jays. And got a lot of up-and-coming studs. And DJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about 2019 for the Blue Jays last year?
So, pretty rough year last year for the Blue Jays in certain perspectives, and pretty awesome year in some perspectives as well. So, you would look at the Blue Jays record from last year at 67 and 95 and think, what in the world am I talking about? Awful season, really, to be honest with you. They did not win very many ball games. The patience of the Toronto fan base has been tested a lot recently. However, they brought up a lot of young prospects last year and let them play. And wow, this is going to be a really good team if they keep the path that they're going on in the near future. With, Bo Bichette, Luis Gurriel Jr., who is Yuri Gurriel's brother, Kevin Biggio, and Vlad Jr., all names that we know from the past, Hall of Famers. Dante Bichette was Hall of Good. The other were Hall of Famers. But their kids are up, and man, are they the real deal. And developed immensely last year. A lot of people say Vlad didn't really have the greatest year last year for him. I mean, I look back at the numbers. They were good. But I think people expect a little more out of him, but he's going to be great. I mean, he's just going to find it. He's going to hopefully get in some shape, and those guys are going to be solid. The lackluster rotation was what caused them a lot of problems last year. They used 21 starting pitchers last year, David. 21 starting. I can't even fathom that right now. They threw 21 different guys out there. And Trent Thornton, I believe, was the best of the bunch with a 4.84 ERA. He had a 4.84 ERA, and he led the team. Come on. So, I forgot he was even on their team until I started researching these guys. And he was their best pitcher last year. And so, he's their number 5 this year, and he was their best pitcher last year. So, at least from the perspective of your best pitcher from last year is your number 5 this year. Maybe you've gotten a little bit better. But, it's kind of a weird situation. They're in a division where it's tough to compete in that division, as you know, man. You're Yankees and Red Sox and Rays every year, and you got to try to compete with that. And that is a massive division to try to compete, especially a little smaller market team. They struggled. They got beat down a lot. Had terrible pitching. I don't even know how I wonder if the Blue Jays fans can name all 21 of them starters, David, because that's almost you have a 25-man roster on your team, and they use 21 starting pitchers. I could not believe that one. I mean, I believed it, but I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? So, rough year, but I think things are going the right way in Toronto. What do you think, bud?
Well, off the air before we started this, I told you I'm not so sure. In some ways, they didn't take a step back, and that was harsh. They had a really busy offseason. So I'm a pretty big Ryu fan. I think he's definitely one of the top pitchers in baseball. Big get for them. But every other move they made to shore up that rotation, DJ, there's not much better than 4.84 ERAs. Chase Anderson's had some nice moments. Tanner Roark had one good year. The rest has been very, very mediocre. Matt Shoemaker, he had 5 awesome starts last year. Can't hardly stay on the field, though. Then they got Thornton back. They got Shun Yamaguchi from Japan as well. He's interesting. They're saying he's probably more of a bullpen profile guy, but was pretty effective in Japan. And it's obvious Toronto has decided to try to mine that. I saw where they also picked up Rafael Dolis from Japan. And I guess he developed a new pitch, and they're expecting him to really be their setup man, which they need. Giles was awesome last year.
Yeah.
The rest of the bullpen was terrible, just like the rest of their pitching staff. So I don't know. I really can't get my arms around the Blue Jays, if I'm just being honest. You know, is there going to be a sophomore slump for a guy like Bo Bichette? I don't know. He was phenomenal last year. Totally picked him up on my fantasy team. He carried me for the few weeks that he got to play. He was amazing. But Guerrero, you know, he was above average, especially for a 20 or 21-year-old, but not what you expected. Kevin Biggio had some moments, but he really didn't put it all together either. So I think they've improved. But, man, I just think they're a long way off from being in the category with the Yankees, Rays. And I'm going to be honest, well, of course, this is a question for later. I'm not sure they even passed the Red Sox this year, even after all the mess that the Red Sox have had this year. You know, their lineup, the Red Sox lineup still matches up really well. Their pitching's terrible too. And maybe Ryu puts them over, but they're a ways away. Obviously, this is a process. And so this is probably step 2, and maybe we'll see some more moves next year. But it's an interesting team. It is an interesting team. Like I said, don't really know completely what to make of it. So we've looked over the roster and everything. What do you think is the biggest strength for the Blue Jays going forward in 2020?
I don't know how you go away from the core 4, the young core 4. These guys are what's keeping the Toronto Blue Jays fans insanely happy about the future. Bichette hit 311 with a 358 on base, had 11 home runs in 46 games, like you said. Gurriel, 277, 327 with 20 bombs in 84 games. Vladdy hit 272 with a 339, 15 bombs in 123 games, which that's not a bad season, David. I think he got reamed a little bit too much, you know. Obviously this guy tore the minors up, but man, as you know, when you get from the minors to the majors, there's an adjustment. Sure. He's going to be fine. He's going to be completely fine. He's got to lose a little weight. There's no doubt about that. I think the GM, I heard him talking today. They went down to the Dominican to check on him. I think they were checking his weight a little bit, to be honest with you. Make sure he's okay and make sure he's at least staying in shape. But he's going to be fine. And then you got Biggio, who in September, he hit 300 with a 424 on base and 4 bombs in September. So he started coming around towards the end of the year too. You know, he led the team in a couple categories. And it's got to be, you know, those names alone, the last names are what get you excited. You got, you know, a brother of a stud on the Astros, and you got 3 former really good players, 2 Hall of Famers and 1 Hall of Good in there. And, man, these guys are legit. And it's got to be the strength of this team. I'm going to throw Ryu in there as well. I mean, their number 1 pitcher is a stud. And we were talking about this a little bit before the air too. Tier 1, Tier 2 pitchers, I don't know how you keep them out of that category. This guy was amazing last year, and he's got to be up there with those 4. You got 5 guys like that to build around. You know, they've got some things going for them, and their pipeline's really good too, which we'll talk about later. But I'm gonna stick with those guys. They were really really strong there. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I agree. So last year, I'm thinking, if I remember right, the Blue Jays had 6 players in the top 100, and 4 of them are up. You know, even Danny Jansen, their catcher, he was a very highly touted guy. And, you know, of course, he didn't have a great season last year either, but you get him clicking along with those other 4, and this lineup is for real. I mean, it's for real. I am not a guy, and DJ, you know this, we've talked about this. I like batting average. I like guys who put the ball in play, and that kind of worries me a little bit about the Blue Jays. You know, home runs are awesome. Everybody likes to see a lot of home runs, but I'd like to see a couple 300 hitters in there as well. And so that worries me a little bit. But again, they're young. You can't bank on what happened last year. Most of these guys, you know, are 22, 23 years old, and so they'll obviously only get better. But I 100% agree that the strength of this team is those core players. So what do you think the weakness is? This is an easy one.
Yeah, it's the rotation. So we talked about this a little bit. After you drop off significantly. You you just don't really have the dogs to carry this team. And, they went out and spent some money on pitching. They know that that's their problem. I listened to the GM talk. He got ripped pretty bad. He's still getting ripped really hard for the Aaron Sanchez and Marcus Stroman trades that he made. He got rid of two really good guys. And Aaron Sanchez, really realistically, he's had one awesome year and hasn't really done anything since then. So I'm not really writing too much on that. However, I do believe he could have got a lot more for him when they made that trade. And Stroman, didn't bring much back either. And that guy's an animal. We saw him in the World Baseball Classic just tear it up for the USA. I think that's the highlight of his career, to be honest with you. And this guy can pitch, man. And you would think that when you give up two guys like that, you would get a ton back in return, and they really didn't. He's taking a lot of heat for that, which rightfully so, to be honest with you, because imagine, David, if he would have got some guys back in that trade to go with all these guys he's already got, he would have been even closer to where he should have been right now. And I think that's where they really messed up. So he plugs in, a couple different guys here. They got Chase Anderson, who I think we've talked about 14 times already in these podcasts. They got Tanner Roark, Matt Schumacher, and Trent Thornton. And we talked about Thornton already, him leading the team in ERA last year at 4.84, and he's penciled in as their number 5 right now. I'm not impressed. I mean, Chase has had a pretty good career. He's 53-40 with a 3.94 ERA, so he's not terrible. Wouldn't really call him a number 2 though. That's the problem, I think, is these guys, you're relying on them to be higher starters than they really should be. Tanner Roark. So I just got to talk to him by him just for a second here. Like you said, David, this guy's a good ball player. He's had one great year. Not too much after that. Tanner's actually an Illinois guy. He played high school ball at Wilmington High School. So he was there with his brother Dylan, who never made it to the pros, but was an absolute stud too. He's a year younger than him. Tanner was a class of 2005. And Wilmington, back when we had 2 classes in Illinois, they were in 1A out of 2A. They got first in state in 2003, third in state in 2004, and first again in 2005. And as you know, David, the state of Illinois baseball is just absolutely loaded and just unbelievable with talent. And for Tanner and Dylan to pull off 2 state titles and a 3rd place in their 3 years is just unbelievable. And kind of a funny story about Tanner, too. Wilmington High School has some housing along the left field line there at this high school, and there was an old couple sitting in their house one morning eating breakfast, and Tanner was out there taking BP, and man, he launched one, and it goes right through their front screen door, glass window, into their kitchen, right on top of their table where they were eating, and these guys just absolutely mashed. So they have this huge net now up in left field protecting all those houses. Those are from the Roark boys, just mashing in high school. Just absolute studs. So when they were in high school, you knew they were going to do something good. Tanner obviously made it. Dylan didn't. But when I thought Dylan was going to make it further than Tanner did, and I was wrong about that. We never faced them when I was coaching at Newark. That was the first team that I coached with out of high school. But they were in the same conference as a high school that I went to. So that they got to see them a lot, and ended up coaching there too. Wow. But man, those guys are just animals, and really cool that we'll follow their careers and see how they're doing, and but like you said, he's not a 3 really. He's not really that guy. I have always thought of him as a 4. He'd be a really solid 4 in a lot of teams. Just another guy that's not really there. He's a 74-64 career win percentage with a 3.71 ERA, so he's not terrible. He's had a good career. Schumacher is 43-32 with a 3.81. In 2014, he was 16-4, so he's got potential, but just I don't know, man. I'm kind of like you. I'm not totally impressed that these guys can pull this off and be a rotation that can compete in that AL East is what I'm worried about. So,
yeah, I'm with you. If Roark and Schumacher did come up and have seasons like that, man, the Blue Jays are dangerous. They are very dangerous. Not real sold on their bullpen either, to be honest with you. They got some guys there as well. But man, going back to that Stroman trade,
No.
if you weren't going to get anything, just keep it. I
Yes.
mean, think about that rotation if he's in it.
Yes.
Like, wow, then all of a sudden it's really interesting. But that's what they're missing is like the number 2 guy to slide in behind Ryu. So I don't know, man. We'll see. Like I said, I'm not real impressed with the rotation, but maybe those guys have career years again. Maybe it all turns around for them this year. And like I said, at that point, they become really dangerous.
David? What do you think? I had a hard time, and I want to kind of go on this a little bit because of the fact that this is a weakness. I really believe it's the Stroman trade, man. I don't understand. Do you have any type of idea as to what they were? I'm kind of baffled, and to be honest with you, man, I've heard it a lot. I was watching a lot of Toronto podcasts leading up to this, and these fans are upset about this trade, and they're not letting it go. And they're kind of going after the GM a little bit here. Like, you better start putting some pitching in here. The pressure's on them a little bit. They're mad about it, and I just want to pick your brain as to, can you even kind of like think about a reason why he would have made that trade, or I'm just kind of baffled, really.
No, I mean, you look, if you're GM of that team and you have these young guys, you got one of the top farm systems in baseball.
Yeah.
Other than maybe saving a little bit of money, I mean, what is there to gain? You're going to need him the following year. You went out and spent a bunch of money on Ryu, but really in the end, that doesn't make a lot of sense because you're not built to win right now. It makes sense in that Ryu's a good pitcher, but you just need more than him. He just doesn't move the needle far enough. I mean, they only won 67 games last year, and they had Stroman 3/4 of the year. And so I'm with you, man. It's kind of baffling to me. I don't even think Stroman even makes that much money. So it's not like they saved millions and millions and millions of dollars or got off of a bad contract. I think this is his walk year right here. And so, man, I'm 100% with you. What do you need prospects for? You're there. It's time. And so, I don't know, man. I don't understand. I'm like you. I'm a big Stroman fan. I was praying at the deadline he was going to be a Yankee. I was so disappointed because he's just a gamer.
Oh, yeah.
Got a little bit of attitude to him, and I like it. He's a competitor.
See, the thing is, David, is what happens then is you've got Stroman, and to me, then you push Roark down to 4 and Anderson down to 3, and you push those guys down, and then you go and get another guy maybe in this coming off season, and then your 1, 2, 3 are legit. And your 4 and 5 get bumped down again, and your 4 and 5 is good as a 4 and 5. So, I just think he's getting a little crushed by this. And man, we're gonna talk about this later. Some of the guys coming up in this pipeline could be plugged in with those guys in Stroman as well too, and because they've got guys coming, man. And if you have Stroman and these prospects, and you push everybody down, you got Ryu, you're that much closer, man. Now I really, really think now that the GM, he's kind of made his own bed. He better start spending some money on this pitching, and he better start calling these prospects up. And it's the weakness, man, and he's got to fix it. He's kind of put a Band-Aid on it right now with Roark, just being honest, signing him. And, Ryu was awesome. They gave him a 4-year deal. He's probably going to be there when they start to get really good, and then you're going to have to think about what you're going to do with him. But I don't know, man. I was just kind of blown away by that Stroman thing. That's the biggest thing that happened last year that I'm just scratching my head about still. And I don't really know what they were doing there, but I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out here.
I'm with you. So let's talk about that farm system a little bit. I know one place you got to go. Their top prospect is a stud pitcher, one of the best in baseball. So talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, Nate Pearson. He's an animal. So everything I've been hearing from this guy is he's a top-of-the-line rotation guy. He's probably not coming up this year. He's probably a 2021 guy. But they're thinking that once he's up, he's a top-of-the-rotation guy, man. And this is what I'm going back to since we're talking about it now. You got Stroman, Pearson, and Ryu. Whew, you go get another free agent. Oh, my goodness, David. Now all of a sudden you're competing, And you've got all these young position guys that are dogs, man. And you got to go get a couple more of those, and we'll talk about that later too. But getting closer. And the GM admitted something that I wanted him to hear is since all these guys are developing so well, he knows the pressure's on him, and he's got to come up with some guys, you know, and he's got to keep being aggressive because they've kind of made this thing go. The rebuild's going to have to go a little quicker than they thought since these guys are just jumping in and having so much success right away. And he's exactly right about that. You know, if these guys would have came up and really struggled last year and people weren't really excited, his timeline would have probably been a little longer and he could have done things a little more spread out. But not anymore, man. He's admitted that this has got to start happening. So, yeah, he's an animal. He throws 103 miles an hour, David. 103 he can hit.
You said something there I got to double back to about Nate Pearson. So why wouldn't they bring him up this year? What's the holdup with this year?
I don't know. I would do it. I mean, I everything that I've heard, he's not, but why not? You know, this guy's proven he's their top prospect, one of the best prospects in the game, regardless of organization. Man, David, he throws 102 and 103 miles an hour, man. This is unbelievable how hard he throws. And if I'm not mistaken, he's a pretty big dude too. So he's got a lot going for him. And sheesh, I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about him. I haven't seen too much of him. I'm going to admit that, but everything I've read about him, real deal, man, real deal.
Yeah, and they have a couple other starting pitchers in that top 10, you know, that are interesting. Anthony Kay is a guy who could contribute this year. But yeah, man, it depends on how much they're believing, I guess, in this year. If they're not believing in this year, I understand them maybe wanting to keep him down. But you know, if you think there's even any chance, you got to turn him loose. You have to turn him loose because that's the only thing between them and really getting to compete. We know they have the lineup to compete. So I was looking over the rest of their farm system, and the funny thing is, still top 10 farm system, but most of it is pretty far down the line. Yeah. You know, and so I got to talk here for just a second about a fellow West Virginia. We've run into this last couple weeks. Alek Manoah, starter from West Virginia, got drafted in the first round last year. Big old boy. I'm thinking he's 6'6", about 260. So. Oh, yeah. But he was a great pitcher. He carried West Virginia pretty close to the College World Series. I mean, for us, we never even could smell it. And so, anyway, he's a guy to keep an eye out on. He can move quickly, I think, through that system. And so maybe they're looking down the road that far. Maybe they're still thinking, hey, we're a year or two away. And put Pearson, Manoah in that rotation along with Ryu. Maybe that's what they're waiting on. I don't know, but it's interesting. They got some interesting prospects.
Yeah, you know, I heard today that they have 7 of their top 10 pitching prospects are all in AAA. So I mean, man, those guys are ready. They're close, you know. So they've got a lot of pitching in the pipeline. They really do, and not a lot of teams can say that, as we know. You know, there's not a lot of teams that are pipelined with this amount of pitching that these guys have. And so if you find you're gonna have Pearson, and if you find a couple more out of that, you know, that are gonna stick, you're in a good spot, you know. And I'm kind of hoping that's what's gonna happen is they're gonna have 2 or 3 of these guys come up and stick, and then they got Ryu, and so there's potential for this to go right for them. You know, it's not like they're completely dry, but they know that they got to do it now. And here's my guy for you. This is another one I was extremely interested in because this is the Blue Jays, man. They've got all the bloodline of all these former players. And so Griffin Conine is one of their prospects. And he's a son of Jeff Conine. And I got a feeling, David, he's going to be in the mix with these guys before it's all said and done. Jeff Conine's in the Hall of Good, too. He's not a great player. He's not a Hall of Famer. But Griffin's 22. He's got a 2021 ETA. You know, they expect him to be up next year. So he's a second-round pick in 2018. He bats left. He throws right, 6'1", 200. Got a real good body there. He led the Cape Cod Summer League in bombs, which is impressive because you know how good a league that is. This guy can rake, man. He also led the Midwest Class A League in bombs with 22. and that was only in 50 games. So he can rake, man. This guy's legit. So he's got a 576 slugging percentage down there too. Best raw power hitter in the organization is what they're saying. So
Wow.
there's another fun one for you, man. The Conine kid. So this is a fun team, man. If you like that kind of stuff, which I know we do, you're going to see a lot of guys coming up that we grew up watching. Their sons are going to now be up there playing for the Blue Jays. And very cool.
I love it.
Very cool.
Very cool. So what do you think best case scenario is for the Blue Jays this year?
I had a hard time with this question more than anything, I think, today, man, because I don't really know what the best case scenario for them is, to be honest with you. I'm having a really hard time answering this one. So I could say, fourth place. It doesn't really seem like too much of a best case scenario to me, though. They get lucky to hop. The Red Sox are still loaded on their offense. I was looking at their offensive lineup today. They still got it, man. They don't have the pitching like they should, but that's a good lineup, man. It's a really good lineup, even without Mookie. So I don't see them taking them over. I don't see them taking the Rays or Yankees. They're kind of stuck right now, and they're in a bad spot. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the best case scenario, I guess, is just keep developing, and try to find some pitching. And I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for this, to be honest with you. It's just it's tough, man, because they're not going to compete. Listen, David, this is the thing about them. They've got to compete in that AL East with those three absolute monsters, and then their crossover is the NL East, which is the best division in the National League, if you ask me. There's 4 dogs in that division that can win it. So you've got all these teams that you're playing this year that are absolutely loaded. 4 teams in the NL East and the 3 teams in the AL East you're going to be playing. And, man, you better beat up on the Orioles a lot, and you better catch the Marlins, and beat them up a lot, because that's what you're going to get your wins on. And the rest of those teams, man, good luck right now with this young talent. They have to grow up fast if they want to win games, but they're not going to do it. It's not their year. We know that. I think me and you agree. They're looking towards 2021, 2022, where they could really legit get good. So I just think that the organization needs to keep pushing forward and get more guys and keep developing. I think that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a pretty decent chance that they hop the Red Sox, only because the Red Sox pitching is epically bad.
Yeah.
The Red Sox lineup is a lot better. I think the Red Sox are still sorting out their closer situation. Their starting rotation's a mess. And so the Blue Jays do have the upper hand on that. But, last year they won 67 games. And to compete in the AL East, they need to add 30 wins to that. And I just don't see 30 wins in what they added. So I'm like you, man. I think 2021 or maybe even 2022 is reasonable. So, we'll see what happens.
David, one of the hardest things to do in baseball, I believe, as an organization is when you start hitting about where the Phillies were last year at the 81 mark, or you go 84 wins, you get to that point there. Now, the biggest and hardest spot to be in is to try to get up to the 90s and guarantee you that playoff spot. That little extra push you got to get to. The Blue Jays aren't even close to that yet. Okay, but I feel like this is a team that could take the steps and boom, go up there a lot faster. It's really hard to get from those 80s to the 90s and stay consistent that way. They could do it, they're kind of hit the rock bottom with their wins, and stuff like that. So it's tough. It's gonna be tough, but they could do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet them to be around a 500 team this year.
Okay,
that's probably the best case scenario for me. They're gonna be around 500. Probably hop the Red Sox. It'll be close, but around 500. But they need to. I'm with you, man. Blue Jays fans aren't gonna put up with it much longer. The excitement's going to wear off. They're going to have to make some moves quickly to keep fans interested. So, what do you think the worst case scenario is?
So, stepping backwards, I think, taking a backward step, not, going out and and being aggressive and getting players. And look, with all that talent, and I hate to say this, I don't know. It's a really good place to be in and a really bad place to be in. So let's say that they're not competing at all. And like you said, if this fan base gets frustrated and loses hope and getting mad, and I think another bad case scenario for them is I really believe, and the GM talked about this a little bit too, is lock these guys up, man. Lock up this young core, and move forward with them. Spend some money on these guys, make them happy, give them 5-6 year contracts, let them grow up as Blue Jays, build around those guys. If you don't do that and you don't start getting people, see, the way I'm not really sure that they're going to do it, and I don't know what you would do either, David. It's kind of an interesting scenario. So you've got all these pitching prospects, and you got a few hitting prospects down there too, let's be honest. And do you just keep developing those guys, or do you trade some of them to get a stud? Or it's a tough scenario to be in, man. And I think the worst case scenario is if he messes this up and he somehow just can't figure that out, and it's tough. And they could take a big step back if he makes wrong moves.
That is a very good point, and that is a very tough situation to be in, because for every great contract like Ronald Acuna, there's another contract that's just a bomb. I remember and he's still with the Red Sox. Can't think of his name right now. From Cuba, they spent money on him, and at the time seemed like a great contract, and he just can't get out of quadruple A. You know what I mean? He's not really good enough to be on a major league roster, but they have to keep paying him. And so he hops between triple A. I wish I could remember that guy's name. So there's situations on both sides. And so the worst thing that they could do is lock those players up, and then they don't produce. So the Yankees, I'm a Yankee fan. I bring that up every episode. But the Yankees have taken the approach of, we're going to play out your contract. And when it comes to year 6 and you're a free agent, if you're good enough, we'll pay you. Like, we're going to pay you for real. But you're just going to play your contract out. That's kind of the way that they went. And then, that's tough because it leaves a little bit of bad blood, maybe from some players. Maybe they're producing. I mean, Aaron Judge, of course, he's been injured a lot, but he's not making big money because the Yankees, like I said, they're going to let him play his contract out. And the one guy they decided to extend, Luis Severino, immediately gets Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
Doesn't even play a year on the contract. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the right thing to do is there. I really don't know. That's very hard because, like I said, for every Ronald Acuna, there's a Luis Severino out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if I were GM of the Blue Jays, I would probably live somewhere in between. I'm probably not extending those guys until I get some guys around them. And then if they start producing, then I'm going to be in a rush to extend them. So, we'll see how it plays out. They need to spend some money, man. They just need to spend some money and get some more players in there to put around these young guys.
Yeah, if I'm a general manager, man, I really want an assistant general manager and an assistant to the regional general manager. I'm telling you, man, because listen, here's the thing, man. If you could be a baseball genius and you could have all these guys, but man, you need somebody else up there with you that's a baseball mind to kind of be another guy getting your ear a little bit, like, hey, what are we doing here, And I believe that's why these guys have these people with them, is sometimes you don't want to make decisions on your own. And they're in a spot right now, David, where they could take what they've got and they could go really high up there, or they could take what they got and they could flatline, or they could go down. I mean, they're kind of at that crossroads right now. They really are. They've shown the world, hey, here's our prospects. Hey, we're going to spend money. We got our ace. We can do a couple things here in the off season. Now what are you going to do? Which way are you going to go? You say you're going to keep going up. You say you're going to build off this. Well, now's the time to prove it, man. And, it's the worst case scenario for these guys if they don't do that and they completely bomb on what the good things that, all the Toronto fans are excited about right now.
Yeah, I agree. So, DJ, I'm so excited about this. It's trivia time. So we grew up during the Blue Jays glory days for sure. And those couple of World Series teams that they had, man, I looked through these rosters and wow, there were some dudes on these teams. So here's my question for you. I'll be surprised if you don't get this. In 1993, the Blue Jays had 4 Hall of Famers on the roster. Who were they?
Jack Morris,
Yep.
Paul Molitor,
Yep.
Roberto Alomar.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to say Fred McGriff because he was a Hall of Famer, but they won't give it to me.
that would make 5.
Okay. So who's the 4th guy? Who am I missing here? Okay. Oh, man. 4th one's getting me.
It's a tough one. To be honest with you, it's a tough one because you don't normally associate this guy with them.
That's kind of what I'm thinking is I'm you know who keeps popping in my mind now that you and he's not even close, but I'm thinking 93 Blue Jays now, and I keep thinking of Terry Mulholland. That's the ace, right?
Definitely not a Hall of Famer.
It's not Mulholland, though. It's not even close. So, man, okay. Who am I missing? That was such a good team. Oh. No, no. Joe Carter's not a Hall of Famer.
No, honestly, when I originally was looking this up, I thought he was too. But, he wasn't as close as I thought he was. Joe Carter was definitely in the Hall of Good as well. Very good. He was a little bit of ways. So it was good. Your boy, Ricky.
Give me one thing. Give me one thing, and before you give it to me.
Did you hear it? I just said it.
Oh, you did?
Yep, but you didn't hear it. So,
give me. Is he a pitcher or a position player?
Position player. Position player. He was around forever and ever and ever. Part of a bunch of good teams.
Man.
He played 10 years after this, which just blows my mind.
I'm just completely missing this one.
You want me to give it to you?
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, can you believe that? And I was sitting here trying to pull up his stats.
Man,
I can't believe he played 10 years after that. That just blows my mind.
Padres towards the end, right?
He played for the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Padres, the Mariners, the Mets.
He bounced around a ton.
Yeah. I was a big Ricky Henderson fan growing up. I can't lie about it. I liked how he had definitely had an attitude and a swagger about him, but he backed it up too, man. He was a stud.
Yeah.
And the year before that, they had 4 on that team as well. They had Dave Winfield on the team the year before that, but he was more of like a pinch hitter by that point. So, anyway, interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. I really didn't know that. I've completely forgot he was on that Toronto team, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I'm thinking he was a late season acquisition. So probably just don't associate him. But there were some dudes on that team. There were some great players on that team. There's no wonder they won the World Series. And even that rotation, it kind of turned over from 92 to 93, but they turned it over with just more good guys. And man, who else would you want with the ball in their hand than Jack Morris, man? Talking about a big game pitcher. Jack Morris was a big game pitcher.
Yes. That guy was a dog. He was unbelievable. The Twins, the Tigers, the Blue Jays, everywhere he went, he won a World Series, man. Awesome pitcher.
Yeah, I was so glad that he got in. They a lot of writers dogged him for a high ERA, but he was the guy that you didn't take out. He was staying in the game, and you got to respect a guy like that who can gut through some starts like he could. I love Jack Morris. 10-inning shutout, if I'm not mistaken, with the Twins.
Yeah.
He's the man. I was so happy that he got in.
Destroyed John Smoltz in that game, man. He pitched unbelievable in that game too. One of the greatest World Series ever. I'm telling you, man. When the whole thing came up with him in the Hall of Fame, you have to factor in his. I mean, he dominated in the postseason. That's a lot of my case for Kurt Schilling too. I mean, Kurt Schilling doesn't have the greatest numbers and all that, and I think he might be one of the guys that gets in this year, but next year or in January. But man, I don't know. I just think you look at that postseason, especially with Morris, and he's one of the greatest postseason pitchers of all time. Just to be honest with you, and you got to factor that in a little bit when you're looking at his overall numbers, and if he's close as a regular season pitcher, and then his postseason's that great, you got to push him in, man. That's got to kind of be the factor that throws him in there.
Yeah, I like Schilling in the Hall. But I'm gonna be honest though, when you look down the list, it seems like there's always pitchers on there a little bit better than him, and that seems like that's been the problem. But there was definitely a point with Schilling where he was one of the most dominant pitchers, if not the most dominant pitcher. And like I said, he's a huge big game pitcher. So if his politics don't get him ran out of there, I think he should be in there as well. No doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Heaven forbid he say what he wants to say and somebody doesn't agree with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I've got some for you too, man. So I'm gonna give you two because I thought Kearns was gonna join us tonight, so I might as well use them since I had to dig them up, all right? Gotcha. These aren't too incredibly bad. I'll give you the first one's a little easier than the second one probably. So the Braves won the 92 and 93 World Series. Or the Braves, doggone it. The Blue Jays. Man! The Blue Jays won the 92 and 93 World Series. Who did they beat in 92 and 93?
The Braves.
Man!
Yeah.
My brain is fried.
All right, listen, I understand. Mine's fried too.
Okay, so that's the 92 team. Then who they beat in 93? We've talked about this.
Hold on. It's so late. 93. I remember this coming up. What's my problem? Braves and the dude, I'm just blanking. I don't know. Who is it?
So remember the skit that I sent you the other day?
Phillies. The Phillies. Oh yeah. And then, it was a good Phillies team too, man.
Oh,
they had some guys on that team. No wonder.
Dirt bags. What a
John
team.
Kruk.
What a team. What a team. I love that team. My other one, here we go. There have been two guys that have won the MVP award in a Blue Jays uniform. Who are they?
Joe Carter, George Bell.
You got George Bell. You're right. Good one on George Bell. 1987 MVP.
Yeah, I used to like me some George Bell back in the day. So
you know what?
I like me some George Bell back in the day.
Oh yeah. He got us Sammy Sosa. That was our trade. George Bell for Sammy Sosa.
Oh, wow. I hear you. So if it's not Joe Carter, I'm gonna maybe say it's a little closer to our era. I'm gonna say maybe Roger Clemens. Man, he had that one year where he was just the dude. 187 ERA. I'm thinking. Not him.
Nope. Another position guy. A little more recent.
More recent. They had Sean Green there for a minute. He was a stud. It's probably not him. He never had one of those type of years.
Sean Green was a stud.
Yeah, he was. Allison's in here distracting me.
Sorry.
Hey, Allison's gonna distract you. She's a beautiful lady. Hi.
You got me. Who is it?
Think about the guy that is.
Oh, wait a minute. Jose Batista.
No, that's a good guess, though. I'll give you that. Who was his teammate? Like one of his Bash brothers on that team?
Edwin Encarnacion.
Good guess.
We're going to have a Hall of Fame discussion about him. That's an interesting Uh, let's see. Who else did they have? They did have a minute where they were really good. They had Russell Martin, but he wouldn't have been it. They had.
You're missing one of the big dogs on that team. You named all the other big dogs. You're missing the MVP though.
The big dog. You gotta tell me, who is it?
Third baseman.
Third baseman. I'm telling you, man, it's too late for this.
Do you want me to keep going? He's on the Braves and just went to the Twins.
Oh, Donaldson. Josh Donaldson. Man, how could I forget that? That's terrible. That's terrible. That was a good one though. I thought for sure I had you with Joe Carter, but he was a World Series MVP. He was never.
Yeah. You're right about that.
The Hall of Good. So DJ, who is your favorite all-time Blue Jay?
So you would think I would go to someone on the 92-93 team. What great teams they had. But, man, I'm just going to be honest with you. I love Vladimir Guerrero. And if he's got a kid, then I love his kid. Because,
man, I don't blame you.
I'm telling you, man, Vladimir Guerrero, to me, was one of my top 10 all-time favorite players by far. That guy can hit a ball off the ground, and that guy can hit a ball over his head and hit both of them out of the park. No strike zone whatsoever for that guy. Great hitter with such a skinny body, which kind of makes me – why is Vladdy Jr. so fat, man? I don't get it.
You know what was crazy about Vladdy? He really had kind of an ugly swing. Do you remember that?
Oh, violent.
Stiff.
Ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't fun to watch. I mean, he was fun to watch, but he didn't have like a grace to him at all. It didn't look pretty at all.
Right.
And I remember that about his arm too, man. He was kind of stiff-legged fielder, but man, he had a cannon, just an absolute cannon. I'm like you. I love me some Vlad Guerrero, and I don't blame you for rooting for his son, because I'm the same way for sure.
Completely going Vladdy Jr. here, man. I just can't. I can't go. When he was coming up, man, I've never been more excited for a Blue Jays prospect in my life. So
yeah, that's a good pick, man. I never really thought about that. I went back with mine. So I'm a Robbie Alomar fan. Always have been. Switch hitter, smooth field and second baseman on some great teams. Everywhere he went, they won. So I always just respected Alomar. But you got me thinking with Vladdy Jr., man. Because I'm with you. I was sitting at the computer waiting for him to drop on my fantasy team. I'm waiting for him to get on the waiver wire so I can hit the button, because I wanted him bad. And that's why his season last year for a lot of people was so disappointing. You just thought he was going to come up and hit 40 bombs, and he just didn't. But it's okay. He's 20 years old.
Right.
He shouldn't have been hitting 40 bombs. But, yeah, I'm with you. That was a good pick.
I couldn't. They have like a thing where you can go from A to Z, and like you can scroll through every player that ever played for them. And I was just like looking through there, and I'm like, no. I just never really been too big of a fan of any one individual on their team, but some of the guys that also come to mind for me are Russell Martin. I love Russell Martin, man. One of my favorite catchers by far. George Bell, like you said, he got a Sammy Sosa, so I kind of got a spot for him. Yeah. Kelly Gruber, I liked a lot too. Remember him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course, the crime dog, man. That's an absolute
Travis.
garbage. David, and I don't wonder. I wish I could talk to Fred McGriff, and the first question I'd ask him is, why didn't you just play one more year and hit 7 bombs? Who's going to let a 500 homer guy out? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess in Fred McGriff's defense, if you were good for 19 years of your career, what does it matter the 20th or whatever the extra year is? I mean, he was one of the most feared hitters in the games, part of great teams pretty much his entire career. Everybody's fourth hitter, during that time. How in the world do you keep a guy 7 homers short of 500 out of the Hall of Fame? All these nominal guys, not nominal, mediocre guys, in my opinion. I've bashed on some of them here, but how do you my guys I normally pick on. How do you let Tim Raines in and not let Fred McGriff in? How do you let Alan Trammell in with 185 career homers and not let Fred McGriff in? I could go on and on, man. I really have a problem. Of course, now they do have the Veterans Committee. Guys end up getting in. But most of these guys don't get in until they're dead. I mean,
yeah,
it's just not right. It's just not right, man.
I just don't understand how you, to be honest with you, like you're leaving out Fred McGriff. And man, I'm not like I just you're leaving him out for 7 home runs basically, David, because this guy's legit, man, and I just don't get it. He's got 2,500 hits. He led the league in bombs a couple times. He's consistent 30. His 162 game average is 32 homers and 102 RBI. He's hit over 100 RBIs 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and in the 90s a couple times. Batting average is up there. He hit 284, 377 on base. Super consistent, man. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's just shy of the magic numbers and hits and homers, but 493 homers, man. Like, that's what I'm saying is he was 40 years old, and he played 27 games with Tampa Bay there when he was 40. He probably just couldn't get a contract after that, being honest with you. But, man, if he could have just tried to play one more year and hit 7 home runs.
Well, I like looking, on Baseball Reference, they have the similarity scores. And here's his similarity scores. Willie McCovey, Willie Stargell, Paul Konerko, Jeff Bagwell, David Ortiz, Frank Thomas, Carlos Delgado, Jason Giambi, Billy Williams, Gary Sheffield.
Almost all those guys are Hall of Famers.
And the ones who aren't, honestly, are steroid guys. And that's the only reason they're not in.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense to me. I hope there's some sports writer watching this. Shame on you if you can't vote Fred McGriff in, but you're willing to vote in Alan Trammell and Tim Raines and Harold Baines and on down the line. He totally should be there. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, and this is a good time to get on this, too. Because
you done got me mad, DJ.
No, I've been ticked about this one for 10 years, man. Every year he's on the bat. He don't even come close, David. Not even close. Like, you're not looking at the numbers at the end of the writing thing and going, oh, he's trending in the right direction. He's going to get – no. Like, he's just completely – I don't get it. I don't understand it. I never will. I don't know.
100% agree. And it's not like there's something in his past, that's pointed to. I mean, I don't think he was necessarily like a hated guy with the media, but obviously, he was more of a quiet, unassuming guy, I don't know. He obviously made some writers mad somewhere or something. It defies logic. It defies logic that this guy's not in the Hall of Fame. And sure, I can take a stat, which is what these pundits are famous for doing. I can take a stat and say, well, he was only, 13th in OBP for these 8 years or whatever. But, I mean, he hit 493 home runs, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I could go on forever about this. It drives me absolutely. But anyway. So DJ.
Go for it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go for it. It's all you, man. I'm done. I'm done with my rant. I could go on. We could go for a long time on Fred McGriff. I could break those numbers down a whole lot more than I just did there and show you more reasons why, but yeah. I'll get off of it. Go for it.
Yep. I'm glad we went there.
Yep.
So I guess it's time to wrap up the show for this one. You got anything else to add? Anything you want to throw in?
Well, I wanted to we haven't Exhibition Stadium and the Rogers Center, the Sky Dome. I've never been to either one of them.
What?
No.
DJ, you live in southern Canada. I mean, that's like 10 minutes from your house. I mean, come on.
I did go to Toronto one time for I was a fast pitch softball player towards probably my late 20s, and I played on the major team here, and we went to the World Tournament up in Toronto. And man, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was our game schedule that blew my chance to go. I don't know why I didn't go when I was up there. I mean, how often do you go to Toronto? I don't know. I can't remember if they were out of town or if I just couldn't make it work with my schedule, but there was some reason why I couldn't get to it. The new one looks cool. I mean, the sky don't look like a piece of trash. I mean, the new one's ugh. But I haven't been to either. What about you, buddy?
No, I'm like you. I went by the Sky Dome one time. We took a family fishing trip to Canada one time, so went by it. I'm like you. Dome stadiums just don't do it for me. So it's not anything like I was just dying to go to. But I definitely remember reading or hearing somewhere that the Sky Dome was one of the loudest stadiums that there was back in its heyday. And it was a huge home field advantage. Of course, they knew how to play that turf and all that. And the steel. We've definitely seen, but not someplace I've ever been dying to go. But hey, if we're gonna do all the teams, man, we're gonna have to take a trip to Toronto, I guess.
We got to get our passports ready. Tell them we're Americans. Yeah. Kick us right out.
That's right. We'll have to get Lindsay to. She's the only one that's got the courage to go down there and get Vlad's autograph for you, though. We'll have to make sure we take her along.
I'm telling you, man, she'll get all 4 of those prospects, man. She'll get all 4 of them to sign for her. I promise you. I don't know how she does it, man. I guess they just melt with the young girls, man. They just are like, get out of here. There's 400 young boys running around. When they rarely see a young girl running around wanting autographs, they eat it up, man. So she's good at it, man. She's really good. I forgot to mention in our Tigers podcast, man. We went and see the Tigers, and who do you think of besides Miggy is Matthew Boyd, right? I mean, he's her ace, and she got his autograph. I'm like, okay, well, that's like the second best Tiger you could have possibly got, So she kills it.
Awesome.
It's unreal. She kills it. So
how many autographs does she have?
Man, she's got better ones than I do, I think, man. She got Kyle.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm telling you, man. I don't know. She's what? They won't sign for like old guys like me. They kind of look at me like, "What are you?" No, they eat those kids up. Yeah. All right, real quick too, before we go, I just wanted to get at these. You can just give me a quick answer. Key ad for the Blue Jays. Who is it? And you don't have to really.
I'm gonna go with Tanner Roark. No, I'm just kidding. It's got to be Ryu, man. He's a stud. They had to have pitching. They gave away their best pitcher, and really they got one of the best guys out there. Potentially in a single season, he could be the best. He might be better than Garrett Cole in a season. You don't know. Obviously, he's had some injury problems. They've been mostly minor, although I think he had a shoulder deal a year or two ago. But if I remember right, after having him on my fantasy team a few times, he has blister issues from time to time. But when he pitches, he's a real deal. Now, it makes you wonder what's going to happen going from Dodger Stadium to where the Blue Jays play. But, I heard them talking about him. I think he throws a fork ball, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I've only known one guy that ever threw a fork ball, and that was Mike Jenkins. But I will say about the fork ball, man,
yeah,
the guy throws it right. It's a hammer. I mean, it's a hammer. It's straight in the dirt. So, anyway, I'm a pretty big Ryu fan. That was a big ad.
Yeah, you got to go with Ryu. I don't know if I mentioned this before we were talking on the show, but this guy led the league in ERA last year, 2.32, and 14-5. This is gonna hurt the Dodgers a little bit, man. Could you imagine that Dodgers rotation, especially now that knucklehead opted out, David Price? Yep. What a man!
Hey, I told you, man. I was never on that train with David Price. He's a good pitcher when he wants to be. I'm just not sure he wants to be anymore. He's rich, so I'm just not sure he really wants to be.
I wish we could go back and edit that Dodgers one because I kid you not, man, when he opted out, Howard texted me right away. He's like, look what just happened. We just talked about this.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll get off it. We'll sit back to the Blue Jays. Key losses: Justin Smoke, Clay Buchholz, Derek Law, Clayton Richard, Luke Melee, Bud Norris, Devin Travis.
No, they're not going to miss any of those guys.
I mean, we talked about Smoke already. I don't think you missed stuff, Justin Smoke. You got Rowdy Tellez, who we didn't give any love to tonight.
Yeah. He'll hit more home runs than Smoke this year.
I think
definitely not going to miss Smoke. Who was the rest of those guys?
Just Clay Buchholz, Clayton Richard, Luke Melee, Bud Norris, Devin Travis.
Clay Buchholz and Clayton Richard are last year's Chase Anderson and Tanner Roark. I mean, honestly, really? Roark and Anderson are probably a little bit better, have more potential, but they're not going to miss any of those guys. The big loss really is Stroman. Yeah. Which that was a trade mid-season, so it doesn't really count. But we've talked all about that. If they had Stroman, they would be really interesting.
Yep, that's it. Any former teammates, Blue Jays fans?
Man, not that I'm aware of. Did we even have any Canadians on the team? I can't think of ever having a.
Oh, a Canadian? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Jenkins boys were closest that we had, man. They were right on that border.
They were very Canadian.
they were so close to being Canadians, man. Like within miles of how close they were to living in Canada.
I've got a really hilarious twin story.
Yes.
Come out at some point. I don't know if right now is the time, but I've got a really hilarious. It's actually Mike Jenkins. He was always the evil twin.
Yeah.
So I've got a really good evil twin story. You're going to have to tune in.
Orioles night. Do it on Orioles night.
You might have to do it on Orioles night.
We're gonna give them guys love on Orioles night. Let's get them then. We could both do some twin stories, man. Casey knows the twins too, so that'll be fun.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. We'll save that one.
We'll save that, yeah, because we'll get Casey involved in them. We'll have fun with that.
All right, man. Well, we've covered the Blue Jays. It's going to be an interesting year for them. Guys, we're only a week from today, actually, of opening day. Super exciting, man. I can't wait. I'm just ready for any sort of sport. Honestly, baseball being the main one. So we got a few more teams to go, DJ. Not much time to get them in. So we'll see how far we get. We might have to have some mid-season teams. So, but we'll do our best.
We got some work to do. We're kind of getting there. So next one will be the New York Mets.
Yep. All right, buddy. Sounds good. So share this for us, guys. Try to get at least to 13 viewers this time. We appreciate everybody that's been tuning in. We had a good time doing it. And until next time, we'll see you.
All right. We'll see you guys.